Hello and welcome back to the PLP. I am very sorry for how late these fixtures are being sent over, or even recorded, to be truthful. Been a big week, but I thought I'd bless you with my voice for a few interesting games across League 1, League 2 and the National League Prem. There'll also be another highlights package sent pretty soon after for the Carabao Cup final. Sorry that can't be a bit more of a grand affair like we did with the Cup finals last year. It's caught me at quite a busy period, work and life-wise. In the real world, this would be a derby, I guess, or at least a rivalry clash. Leeds against Man U, as it is. I'm not sure Alex Todd and Tom Dauncey have much beef between them. But for someone chasing automatic promotion like the latter is, it's a really tricky game. Leeds UniTodd on their day can beat absolutely anybody and lose to absolutely anybody. The most unpredictable team amongst the drafters, for sure. They hit a really good patch of form around Christmas time that started threatening the playoffs after a poor start to the season, and then ever since then it's kind of been one win, one loss, one win, one loss to kind of stunt that charge. I'll also periodically hear me pour a lot of coffee because it's very much needed this morning. When you look at that Leeds UniTodd team, you've got a very young Leighton Baines who's now getting game time, which pretty much completes a formidable lineup at midfield. Vieira, Speed and Pogba. And just as I talk up Leighton Baines in true commentary fashion, he has a brain fart. Saved by Wojciech. Yeah, going back to that Leeds UniTodd team, that is strong. Can't see him needing to make too many changes over the summer, not that I thought he would anyway. Dauncey's Devils, meanwhile, as ever, using the transfer market to good effect across both last summer, mostly last summer to be fair, some minor dabbles in January. And after talking this game up, we're heading towards a very drab 0-0. Not the worst result for Dauncey, I'd say. He's, in a weird way, despite being second, playing a bit of catch-up to teams behind him just because he's played more matches. White Hart Chamberlain overtook him last week despite playing far fewer games, and then Warringham are poised very dangerously. This would be helpful, but Fabregas has shat his pants. 5.8 from, no, it's not Aubameyang, it was Ibrahimovic. The graphic just hasn't caught up, but either way. Are we going to see a late winner? It's Dauncey threatening. But it's Alex that scores the winner. Forlan. And that is going to be a painful blow for Tom's promotion chances. Still good for the playoffs, still in the promotion hunt, definitely. But really can't be affording to lose points at this stage of the season. That penalty miss, how crucial will that be at the end of the year? Two teams with playoff ambitions. Okay, I'm going to say that a lot because pretty much 80% of the drafted teams are still within a shout of making the playoffs. So you see that 4th and 7th very firmly in the mix. And again, Jazz of the Rovers, a bit like Leeds UniTodd, really threatened to take control of proceedings around sort of the Christmas period. It was top at one point. That Henri Letitia staggered front two. Really potent. But it's just dropped off a bit, and in the meantime, AFC Wimbledon has had sort of the opposite trajectory. Really hit some form under the guidance of Arnested, brought in last summer. It's been sort of that front three mixed up with Alexis Sanchez, rotating a sort of a attacking lineup that's seen off most teams. Usually it's Carragher at right back, but gone for a different Liverpool player of yesteryear this time, in Arbeloa. If I'm being honest, I would have definitely tipped Jazz of the Rovers to be in the mix before this season started, but maybe a bit more surprised by Zach's recovery after a pretty bang average year one. Only just avoided relegation. Another barnstorming half. I've really chosen the highlighted games well today. I mean, that front four for Jazz. It's good to see Letitia finally getting some game time in the project. Broke his leg at the very start of season one while at Thomarse. Given a summer move and thriving. And then Crespo, should have mentioned him earlier in that rotation mix for the home team as well. Are we sleepwalking towards another boring 0-0? Or are we going to have more late drama? Oh, is he off? He's off. And this one is going to end 0-0. What an absolute crackerjack of first two games. Got a message yesterday from Thomas Keeble saying he needed his fix. I'm pretty sure this is not fixing anything. That took a grand total of 3 minutes. Shoot him down to the NLP, maybe there'll be drama there. And even though we've only got the one drafted team involved in this game, it's probably the most critical of the afternoon. If we're going to get this big summer madness, then we kind of need Liam involved in the playoffs, and he's 3 points off it currently. David Moyes has come in, steadied the ship slightly, but there's just still too many draws and sloppy drop points to firmly secure a place back in those top 7-8 places. Liam's already been plotting his summer transitions. He's been threatening a overhaul of anyone that isn't Man United centric. Poor Mario Melchior finally gets some game time and he's on the chopping block. But this is a must-win game. Good start. I like the way that FM has compiled today's fixtures. Still got the big League One clash to come between Thomarse and Foyverton. A really, really big one, and hence the reason why Thomarse has been chomping at the bit to get that game watched. He knows a win there all but secures his automatic promotion. Foyverton have games in hand, but it would take a lot to reel him in at this point. I think Liam was also on the, should secure it, at the Teddy. He was also on the lookout for any potential United acquisitions next summer. Not many in the form of free agents. So if there are any other players out there with United players they're not using, you've got an easy buyer. I think most prominently he's looking at Connor for Nani. Don't think that's any secret. Matty for Ander Herrera I think is also quite high up on the list. A much needed 3 points. For some reason I'm still pretty convinced he will make the playoffs. He should do. The teams are so much better than these non-drafted opponents. Just dropping too many silly points, which hopefully Moyes will eradicate. FM has done it well this time. They've set up the grand finale. Before we go back up to League One, an all NLP drafter clash between two good friends about to become enemies. As you can see by the league table, not much to separate them. In fact, 13 goals of goal difference to separate them. You'd say that Marshy's flying ahead now for automatic promotion. So this is more about playoff seedings, because if you do finish second and third, you don't have to go through the semi-final stage or the initial qualifying stage. And with OTB Craig in free fall, could be a place for both of them, to be honest. NottinGiant Forest still in that equation as well. And a rare game without Tom Lockyer, so you won't have to listen to me talking about him for the next 3 or 4 minutes. Van Heckeren drag his centre back. His January acquisition of the latter paying off. Can't work out who's at left back then. Jay Johnson. Another cracking first half to add to the mix. I mean, I'm definitely outing myself here as forgetting someone obvious, but can't think who Jay Johnson would be. Left back, inherited for LuTom or drafted. Surely not the first sign of a regen. There he is. Lockyer on to save the day. In fact, we've got through nearly 4 games in under 15 minutes. Usually 4 games are taking about 25. For context, that's how drab this highlights reel has been. I'm so glad you've all waited 4 days for it. The enigma, number 38, Jay Johnson. Treading water to get back after his little adventure. Surely you've got a left back hanging around that could play instead of him. Kaminsky in goal as well. What an odd selection. Extremely attacking 4-2-4 and no goals to show for it. Cheers, boys. Hoping this one cooks up something a bit more interesting. And Liam Delap has been thrown in for this quite crucial fixture. We'll see from the league table in a sec. Fatty chosen up front as well. Lukaku dropped or kept out by Fatty. And there you see it. There's 8 points, but he has got a game in hand. So a win today would take him to 5 points with that game in hand. The possibility of 2-point deficit. A win for Thomarse, surely. I don't want to say as far as secure as that promotion spot, but all but. I think Thomas actually asked to see his fixture list, and from memory I think he's got 3 more games against drafted teams, this one included. I think he's got a double header against either Foyster or Levi, I can't remember which way it runs. So it's 2 against one and 1 against the other. And 2 of them are definitely at home. So I'm pretty sure this might be his toughest remaining game, if you take into account the away element. Even a draw here wouldn't be helped by playing a cross goal ball like that. Inspired stuff from Ranieri putting Liam Delap in. Jesus. Another mistake. Pressure's getting to everyone. Just happy we've got any form of action, and that is action. What a hit. Dear me, Thomas is waiting a long 4 or 5 days for this, and it's not started well. Rudiger slamming one in top bins. 4th goal of the season. Foyverton have been in such bad form recently. Had cup exits, dropped off in the league, some outrageous defeats to non-draft teams and lower league draft teams in the cup, those cups as well. Finally finding some form. Who knew it would take Liam Delap to encourage it out? Again, no preference on who gets promoted from my side. Obviously for the drama, thinking ahead to sort of April and May time. Would be good if the promotion slots weren't all just taken weeks in advance. If we were to go down to a final day decider. Despite the momentum largely being in Thomarse's favour in that first half. They didn't really equate it to as many shots. It's just a lot of possession. The Ian Rush, Liam Delap strike force we always dreamed of. Immediately eroded by Patrick Kluivert's arrival. And we're fizzling in the second half this time. Could be a massive win for Foyverton. And it is. Get the ball. Game on. See, it's going to be a busy week. I've got a lot to catch up on. Right, go to these other League One games. Easy win for Ellister, while Thomarse was dropping points, all but secures his promotion, if not the title itself. I know we've got a long way to go, but just been in imperious form. Foyverton again, unplayable. Coventry not helped by injuries to Magnus Hedman in the first 5 minutes, to be fair. And a win for FullofStrangeham as well, just to keep it a bit interesting in that chase of Thomarse. Gone to a back 3 on that Swansea. So I got very confused. Darwin Núñez, a winner in the first 3 minutes. Down to League 2. And Connorwich, 2 losses in a row following the Anglian derby defeat last week. Bustin Villa, who have been on the up in recent weeks, Ron Atkinson leading a very late playoff charge. Very unlikely playoff charge at one point in this season. Quite alarming injury to Mark Thomarse, who's been in great form. But Bustin's flying. Cheshampton, easy win as you'd expect. Home to Sheff Wed B. Actually, Chesh is looking pretty ominous at the moment as well. He threatened around December or January, I think. Then had a bit of a lull, but has come back into form in recent weeks. Klinsmann, a bit like Foden, just looks quite unplayable in front of goal at the moment. And a big win for Louis away at Calv. He's got a lot of games in hand, and anyone in the playoffs currently should really be looking over their shoulders at Louis. Unlucky not to make the playoffs last year, and he's finding form at a good time. I see that Paul Merson's been forgiven for the home team at least. Always annoying to drop points against non-drafted teams. Jordy Cruyff, similarly in very good form recently. Putting pay to Ned's hopes of an easy 3. Sukera at least securing 1. Sorry, Harry. Again, back to that back 3. Immediately just uneventful and impotent, to be honest. Very bizarre. Arsene Wenger. I don't know if Harry's having any thoughts about whether he wants to keep Wenger in the summer. His decisions continue to baffle. Finally, I get the Owen Ferdinand strike force that I've been waiting for. Immediately pays off, who would have thought. And just like Ned, a bizarre dropping of points. I was talking to Ray yesterday about the form he's in, and he was worried about having played all of these non-drafted teams too early. But at least he was getting points on the board. These are not the points he wanted on the board. Gruder ruining what should have been an easy 3. And Barnsley nearly doing the same to Warringham. Now that would have been a shot. Christoph and Bullock not quite reeling in the promotion hopefuls. but De Gea having a bit of a stinker. And finally, Danielle C completing a trio of teams to drop points to non-drafted sides. Not brilliant for us today. Rob Earnshaw doing the damage on this occasion. Unfortunately for Dan, a lot of his season hopes were put pay a while ago. Onto NLP, Marshy continuing his quite subtle jog to the title now. Reeled in Craig and just plodding on into the distance. Sensio and Son enough to see off Kesman's consolation. I missed somebody. Yeah. NottinGiant Forest seeing off QPR's 2024 team led by Lyndon Dykes. It was good to see. Brian Roy with a late drama. And finally, unfortunately, this has become a bit of a familiar scene. Declan Rudd getting the unlikely game time in this project following Mark Schwartz's injury. But even with Callum Wilson and Carlton Palmer back in the side, no goals and only 1 point. League tables. There you can see all four of us have, from a League One standpoint, now secured in those playoff places. It's just a case of who goes up. Ellister looking pretty home and hosed, but FullofStrangeham 4 points behind, albeit having played a game more. Foyverton 5 behind with a game in hand. Could still get some late season drama as we enter the final 10 games. Dauncey's defeat didn't really help him, and everyone behind him has played fewer games. Warringham have actually caught up now, so I keep thinking they've got a lot of games in hand because of their European campaign, but not really. You look at teams like Bustin Villa now, would go ahead of Zach's AFC Wimbledon. Jazz of the Rovers in a similar position. The Sky Lews sitting very pretty there. They've still got eyes on automatic, I would think. My win today, I know I'm far down, but again, 6 points off the playoffs with 8 or 9 games in hand on some teams. The Red Wall have games in hand. Even Arsened. That is tight. 7 points between 16th and 7th. Only really Harry Pally out of the equation because even Wyman's got 10 games in hand on people. Could be in for a hell of an end to that season. And in the NLP, I mean, it's a sign of how much of a gap that OTB Craig had on everyone else. Hasn't won in ages. Still in second. Presumably hopes of that top spot now gone for anyone else other than Marshy. But like I say, that second and third place is significant because then it's 4th and 7th that have to play the little playoff round first before getting to the semi-finals. And that's everything for now. I'll be back in about half an hour, also with the Carabao Cup final. I'll be lending my voice to once more, and then at some point soon I'll try and catch up with everything I've missed during this week as well. As you saw by my calendar on the loading screen, there's a lot to get through, so see you soon.